Hello, good morning everyone, and have a very nice day ahead. Thanks for the 1,000 subscribers. I really appreciate, and that really motivates me to do the small stuff which I learn, and so that's a good thing. And really appreciate your subscription or like for the videos. So thanks a ton for that. So this video is after quite a bit, um, almost a month gap. The reason was I had to move from one place to another, and this COVID situation, those quarantine and everything, all is now over. And I hope everybody is safe in this COVID times as well. So stay safe. I have taken a very small topic, and that's pagination in Django. And sometimes I used to wonder how exactly it happens. I used to think, okay, I have to manage that many data and I have to chunk it and then I have to show it. Then the user would feel something and then how to do it kind of. So Django provides a very simple approach on doing the pagination. So if you need to read something on, so there is a direct documentation from the Django which helps us on reading everything, and I have read it and I was like, oh wow, this simple. So that's how my learning pagination was about. So it gives us a paginator class, and that's how. So I prepared a very small demo of it. So I have created one simple page which gives me, so these are the elements on that list, and I'm able to do a pagination kind of stuff. And I can also ask to increase the number of elements on each request. So that's how it is. Now the second biggest question comes is, okay, I get it, I can do a pagination of a list or array like structure. What about the CSV data? So for CSV data I have prepared a small demo. So this is a simple data set. So it shows me the pagination options like this. I'm able to see the pagination options, and then similarly I have the number of cells or number of rows I want to visualize or show as a paginated. So if I select, let's say 10, and I click, then it will show me the 10 elements on each next page. So now next 10 elements, then again next 10 elements. So you can do the JavaScript stuff and send the value here once the user selected, but that's secondary. So that's how it is. So let's see how I did it, and it would be a very quick and short video. So let's see how it goes. So to start with, we have to start with the project. So I will just create a project here. I will name it. So I will do the basic stuff. So I hope everybody would be able to follow it. So let me start with it and you can watch it. So I will just create all the required stuff quickly so that we can start with it. So this is how my structure looks like. This is my project and this is my first step. So I will just do a few more basic stuff like so our app is ready. Now we have to start with some example. So let's get hold on to the pagination class first, which is given by the Django itself. So to start with the pagination example, I would really like to go ahead with the pagination example here. So as it says, you have to just import from django.core paginator, import paginator, and then pass any list, and then you have to just create a paginator object by passing your list or array, and then say how many elements you want in the pagination. So the first one would be 2. So let's say if I say this list which has 4 items, 2 items in each page, and then we have all these attributes. P.count gives how many elements are there, P.number of pages gives how many pages we would have. So 4 divided by 2 and then double slash, and it will give you the number of pages. Then p dot range number would give you how many pages we have, and then it will also, so p dot page, and then say first page I want, then it gives the element of the first page. And to get the element of the first page, you have to just simply say page 1 dot object underscore list. So simple. So let's just start with the particular example. I will just copy this part. This is the only thing which we need for this example. Now in here we need a dummy list, right? So what I'm gonna do is list, I would just say any list, this is my variable name, and now I need list of range of 50 elements, and now this would be my array which I want to paginate for the UI. So for that we have to use the paginator class. I would say page class is equal to paginator my LE list and how many elements I want to show. So let's say 10 elements at a time, and yeah, so let's say page C dot page, and the first page we want to publish. Then what I have to do is I will save. Now this is the first display which we are going to show in the UI, the elements. So 10 elements of that first LE list would be displayed. So I would say data, this is going to be in the UI. So now I can say, so this would not have the data completely. I have to call the I have to call that attribute dot object underscore list. This is what it says, object underscore list. Now similarly I have to say how many pages are there, so that is inside p dot range, that is our paginator class. So here I would say number of pages, and that would be page C dot page range, and I think I have to just make it a list, and I think we are good. So now in my UI I have to just display this. So I will just display the data. Let's see how it works. And then another is the range which we have in the views, number of pages. I will rename it, but for now, and let's look at the UI now. As you can see, my first 10 elements and the number of pages which I have. This is all we need. Now we have to add the option of pagination. So we have to do some action, that is a form action, which will change the number of pages which the UI or backend has to respond to the UI back. So for that particular purpose, we have seen it so far. So this is all about the pagination. Now it's all about adjusting your UI, what is the needed, and all the other settings. So to do that, I will be in here, and what I will be doing is, let's just first create a loop for I in number of pages, and within this particular part I would just create a input which would be of type submit, and the values which we have to pass. So value would be our I, which will come from the loop, and then we have to give a name to it, and the name would be just, let's say, page number, right? So simple. Then let's close the thing. Now from here onwards we have to have everything inside a form. So now form would need a action and the method. So this method, let's say simple get method, and our action would be some URL has to be given. So I would say right now it is just an index, so we are not supposed to give anything, so I will just save it. So on the same index I will be passing this page number and the value which it has. So let's check our UI. So that's how it is now. Let me just give a break, and that's how it is. Now when I click the 1, it is going to the page number equal to 1, but now this is not been understood by our system. So it takes the get request, which is going on the plain URL, which is fine. Now we are not have considered this input in our index function. So at here, what I will do is, so this is the default which is happening. Now what I will do, I will check if request dot get, so that's how we take a value from the get method, get and our variable name, and our variable name is page number or the format or that inputs name. So this page number is, if it is not there, it means it is none, right? So what I will do is equal to none, then we will be doing this particular operation. Let me create a new variable and I would say 1, and if that value exists, it means it is not none. Then what I'm going to do is page number should be equal to this particular variable. For now this is fine, a lousy code. So page number equal to 1, otherwise the page number would be different. Now at here I would just pass it on here. So we are good. Now let's reload. So we got our sample data now. Now I will go to the second page. As you can see, the values are changing. Third page, fourth page, fifth page. Pagination over. That's all we needed to learn. Now some other things to just share kind of now. Now what if I want to manipulate the number of elements also? As you can see here, we have a number of element or given as a hard coded 10 here. So what if I want to give that option also in the UI? So for that, we don't need much. We have to just add a functionality like a drop down or something on the same form, and we will take care of it from there. So to create a drop down, we have to just use select statements, select keyword. So here is the statement here, select name, number of elements, value 5, 10. So let's just see it in the UI first. I will just add some name here, select number of elements, just to make it clear. Now I will just upload it here, select number of elements, so it is showing it here. We want to remove this particular part, we want to show it above it. So let me just take all this part from here to here. I will add another break. So now if I select 2, 3, 4, all these things are fine. Now we want to implement the number of elements to be changed. So if I say, okay, let's say 5, then we have to take this particular element and set it up here. So same request, if request dot get number of elements is equal to none, then we will hard code number of elements as 10, else number of elements is equal to all this value, and I will bring it down this particular thing here to here. So now this particular part where I have a page number, which is find number of elements to be used here, and I save it. Then let's just check. So number of elements 5. If I click on 1, now I will have only 5 elements at each pagination. Similarly, if I select number of elements 10 and click, it will give me 10 elements at each pagination. So that's a simplest way of doing pagination with all the 3 options. Now we will look ahead on the CSV pagination. So few things to keep in mind. Now here we have got element created in this function every time. So this can be an expensive operation. So be mindful how you are getting the particular value. And most standard practices, you don't want to show all the data in pagination format. Either give them in as a download option, or if it is not such scenario, then you have to really think of how you can optimize your pagination approach accordingly. So let's jump ahead for the CSV. To start with CSV file to read or any tabular file, we are not supposed to use pandas or anything. because that creates a data frame, and then data frame cannot be accessed via the way we want. Like we want the rows to be showed in a list format, or somehow it should be in a array format, not in a dictionary format or something. And it depends on the implementation as well, but the way which I found efficient was using, instead of pandas I use the CSV reader. So I will show you. So at this particular point I have my iris data set with me. As you can see, this is how the data looks like. So if we want to do this as a paginated view in the Django application, then each row become our each element of our array, and accordingly we have to display it in the UI. And to do that, I will just show you in the notebook so that it is easier to understand how exactly all this thing works. So I will start with importing the basic stuff like CSV, and we are good. This is all what we need. Now I'm going to start with opening the file, and our file name is iris dataset, and in a read mode, and some variable name as f. And so most oftenly what we do is we read a file and then we simply say f.read and save it in some object, right? So file object, but this is not gonna help us here. This becomes a string and then it becomes hard to manipulate it and all those other issues. So what we want to do is we want to use the CSV reader. So CSV is a package name, and from the CSV package name, so what I will be doing is I will use csv.reader, and in here I will pass the object that is our f. Now we have to define the delimiter. So it depends on the data, so whatever or however it is, but comma separated, then comma, or otherwise space or anything that has to be manipulated. Now once I have a file object, and this is just a file object, now this is the interesting part here. So let's say if I do for row in my file object and I print row, and as you can see I got each element in a array, and so each row is an array, and now every row's element is all itself is an element in my array. So now what I can do is I can prepare array of array or list of lists, and I can have the pagination. So this simple. Now the biggest challenge is here to get the our column names of the CSV file. So most oftenly the first line is the column name. So those who have a complicated indexed column, I'm sure there has to be a logic written here, but for now we are good. So I would just simply say I will create a value here, line count is equal to 0, and if line count is equal to 0, then this becomes my header info is equal to row, and else. So once we are done here, I will just simply say line count is equal to plus equal 1, so it will just increase the value, and else I will just create some other array rows. I will just append all the values in here. So else dot append row, and once I have here, I will see all the rows here, and I will see my header info, that would be CSV headings in here. So this simple. Now this is the same code which we are going to use in our Django backend. So now here I want something else to show, like CSV. I want to add the CSV view, so I will just create some functionality for that. So in the index, once we are done with all this information, I will just say so this would be our URL now. And just a text for that. So I hope this would work. So we are here, I would be here, I will reload. So click here for CSV. So CSV pagination we reached. Now this has to be introduced in our URLs. Path pagination views dot, let's say same name is equal to same. Just now in the views we have to create another function which takes the name and then request, and then I have to say return render request. I'll just call it same HTML context. So the context will be empty. Now in here I have to create a file .html and we are good. So now at this particular point I will just add a tag and I will say CSV pagination and CSV pagination. Now our objective is to send the data and the way I showed just now. So in here we have to do few CSS HTML stuff again, but let's first do the CSV pagination logic here. So same code as I had in my CSV reader, I will just copy paste it. I will import CSV and in here, so I will open the iris dataset, and this dataset already belongs in my root, so I don't need to worry about it. Then I will read it. I will have these two values, array rows and header. Where is my header? Header info, and in the context I will just pass the data, and that would be array rows, and the other thing is header info, and the same thing I need to show it in here, header info and the saving it, reloading it here, and we are good here. So now let's just rearrange. That is data pagination. So now this has to be arranged in a order. So for that we need some table. So I will just create a table. In table I would have tr, and within tr I will have the heading first. So I will create a loop for column name in header info and for, and in here I have to say th, and within th I will have the values column name. Let's just save it and see the, so this is perfect. Now for our data what we have to do is same operation, but there would be two loops. So this is little tricky in the table, so I would say care for it. For column, for row in data, so first is this, I will end the for, and in here I would have tr, and within tr I would have a, so this tr would be outside of my for loop, and this all would be within my table. So within here I would have, so this row would have its element, right, as it's seen here. So this would be my row, and within this row I have these elements which has to be arranged. So now that, for that I would need another for loop for element in row, and I have to say end for, and in here I would say td and the element. Let's see if this works, which is, I think it is working. Okay, so I have to do tr inside here, would be inside here, save. So perfect. So now I have to just style it. Let me just do it. pretty quick. So what I will do is, in here in my HTML table, I will just add the style and I will bring body here, and I can just exclude this. I'll just reload and everything is styled. Now in here we want to add the pagination. So as we have seen earlier, our data is already in the right format, that is in the array format. Now in here we have to just introduce the our pagination class as seen here. So let me just do that. So in pagination we want these two values. Let me hard code it first for the beginning. So element list would be the range and the number of elements, not the element list, that is the page number. So we want to see the page number 1 as a default and number of elements as a 10. And now in here we have to say our array rows, and I think we are good. In here we have to pass the page range. So I would first create a object, and then data would be page C. Page C is fine. Then I have pagination object of our value. Then instead of data rows we want to pass the data, and then object list. So page C would have all the elements. The number of elements is 10. Then page object would say dot page number. Then our data would have object list, and we will be able to do that. So we are good. So we are able to see 10 records. Now I have to add the range, which is this one. Now the same logic can be added here, like a form which I had here. I will just bring it on here. So we have our pagination here, and if I click right now it won't work because we have not added that logic. I will just add that logic here in the views. So once all these things are done, if I can just copy paste also. So now 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, blah blah. Now the other important thing here is that number of elements. So same logic holds true. I will just quickly implement it. So I will just copy paste it here. So if dot number of elements, then this. So we have already added the page number. I will add the logic of number of elements. I will just remove this. Now number of elements is fine. I have to edit the logic in the UI, which gives the select option. So I will just save it first. Then in here, that's within form, I have to add action is equal to get, is equal to our URL name, that is CSV pagination, and method is equal to get. Now this particular form has to be above our table so that it is visible also and it is at the right location. So now pagination, 5 elements, and I click 1, 5 elements are there, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10. So we are kind of good now. So this ends the practical and the explanation how CSV files comes in the pagination format using Django application. I hope you understood the concept of pagination in Django world. If you have any doubts, please reach out, no problem. The another thing I would say, please give yourself some task after looking at this video. So the task would be how to set this as a 5. I mean, make it permanent using sending the value also and then selecting it as a default value in the select tag. Now the another task which I would suggest was, right now I have used everything in a format of query requests, right? Everything was get. Now what if I want all things in this particular format? So you would have noticed in some application, so it says either, I mean, this is no wrong here, so it is perfectly fine the way it was right now using a query string, but You can also try it using post method or maybe making it a dynamic, all those. It's just a suggestion, just try it out so that you have more understanding of it. But pagination is only up to this particular part where we have to create a particular object and then use that object for our entire operations. The another thing which I would like to initiate or which I would want to suggest is, right now I am reading the files here. So there is one particular thing which we have to understand. When we read a file, it does not read it in entire at a time, and it does not store it also. When we use CSV.reader, it reads it line by line and it try to decipher it by using this delimiter functionality. Now, why it is really important, let's say you have a huge data file which has like say million records. Now, how would you do it in the pagination format? It's not even recommended. So on such scenarios, what you want to do is, right now I have restricted it using line count 0 and all. You can have a limitation, let's say 1000 records. And once the 1000 rows are read from your function or this particular part, you are done. You won't read that file anymore. So that's a nice way of doing the resource optimization and not wasting the resource on having everything in the object or in memory and then doing the to and fro from the backend and the UI. That's all. I If you have any doubts, again please connect, or if you like my videos, please consider subscribing to my channel, and have a great day. Thank you very much.